So each year I pick one Bible to use for like 95% of my Bible reading. And this year I've got 4 contenders. I shared them in a video right there that you can go see. But I'm Chad Brooks, I'm a pastor here in Louisiana. I make videos about the Bible, the spiritual life, and the everyday going on of a pastor. And in this video, I want to share contender number 3 with you for the Bible that might be my 2023 Bible. And it is a old school, I don't want to use the word vintage, that sounds a little pretentious, but it's an older Cambridge wide margin hardback, but it's really different from the wide margin hardbacks that we find Cambridge putting out today. But first I want to talk a little bit about why the New Revised Standard Version or the NRSV, because I've not read it yet this year. You know, the NRSV wasn't really a contender, but this year it is. So I read the NRSV for the first time when I was in seminary, and before I went to seminary, I was a Bible salesman, and I had never even heard of the NRSV. So when I get to Asbury Seminary, my first semester, we're told to have an ESV, an RSV, or an NRSV. And I went through my whole first year of seminary carrying a cheaper thin line ESV Bible that I bought when I was selling Bibles. Sidebar. As big as Asbury is about women in ministry, I'm kind of surprised the ESV was one of our suggested translations. That's interesting. But my second year, I had a professor that required us to use a New Revised Standard Version on all of our assignments. And so I just used like the $10 version from Accordance Bible. The technical title of the class was Inductive Bible Study, but we all called it IBS. And the longer I'm out of Asbury, the longer I realized that we maybe should have just called the class English Bible like most other seminaries did, because telling people I have IBS at 9 o'clock in the morning, Tuesdays and Thursdays, was always a little awkward of a conversation. But I used Accordance for the NRSV. But then later on that year, I got sent another Bible. Let me go get it for you real quick. You've seen this Bible before. This is the Oxford NRSV Note Takers Bible. This is the first wide margin Bible I have ever seen, and I got sent it by Oxford to review, and it's a single column, like big wide margins. This is a fantastic, fantastic little Bible. And I got sent this to review by Oxford my my third year of seminary. And I loved it, and I fell in love with the translation, I fell in love with the edition, and I carried it with me throughout all of the rest of seminary. And the NRSV is an update of the older Revised Standard Version, which is an update of the American Standard Version, which is an update of the King James Version. So it's inside of that authorized tradition. And what I love about the NRSV is it's an ecumenical translation with folks from the Catholic world, the Protestant world, the Orthodox world, all of them using that Bible together and being part of the translation team. It's a literal translation. It's also the regular academic translation for most of the folks inside of the mainline. And you find it in most mainline churches' pews for the most part, unless they've switched over to the contemporary English Bible, which is But I'm used to the NRSV. I love the NRSV. About 50% of the whole Bible loops I have done in my life have been with the New Revised Standard. So I've probably read the New Revised Standard Version all the way through 8 times or so, 9 times maybe. I'm also preaching out of the NRSV currently, but also probably for a while. So I'm a bit interested in using the NRSV in those regards. Over the last couple of years, ever I am doing my devotional stuff and everything else in a translation that I'm not preaching in, sometimes it just becomes kind of janky in that translation between the two, especially when I was using the ESV hardbacks for my Bible in a year, but I was preaching out of the New Living Translation. That was a really difficult just bridge to make, but I would say the NRSV and the NLT are my absolute favorite translations, so that's why I'm thinking of going with a New Revised Standard Version this year. So why this Bible? Let's talk about that. I've got a couple of reasons I want to share with you. You know, Cambridge does not currently make a wide margin edition of the New Revised Standard Version. They used to make this one. This is an older one, and I've also had one of these in leather, but I gave it to a good friend. But what's really weird is we open this Bible up to its like printing page, let's call it that. We see that this is listed as a wide margin minister's text. I actually have another older Cambridge. which is an NIV. And if we open this up to the same page, it lists it as just a wide margin edition. And if we go to my current 2022 Bible, the Cambridge NIV Insights Wide Margin Edition, it lists it as the NIV Pit Minion Wide Margin Reference, which makes sense in the modern Cambridge era because their current wide margin Bibles are just expanded versions of that Pit Minion reference text block. So we see that there's a lot of history behind Cambridge wide margins. It's always been evolving, but there's no modern NRSV. I've got this older one, and you can find this on Amazon or A-Books. They're actually not terribly expensive most of the time, so I'll put a link to one down in the description. The second thing is I really like the cover of this. Like this cool, like burned cream or tan. It sounds good when you scratch it. It also reminds me of the hardback Bibles that my seminary professors would carry when I was in school. And most of those were the new Oxford annotated NRSVs or RSVs. And that might be why I'm partial to hardbacks, like seeing all these people that served on either the translation teams or the revision teams for the New Revised Standard or for the NIV or for the New Living Translation or even for the CEB, carrying around these hardback Oxford NRSVs. It just makes me just kind of go back to that. So that might be why I like it a lot, but the tan color is pretty cool. It's also a little bit thinner, unlike other Cambridge wide margins, and I like how it feels in my hands. It carries easy, it holds easy, it sits easy. It's not as bulky, even though it's the same like height and width and stuff. You know, the NIV that I shared earlier is pretty much the same thickness as all of the other modern Cambridge wide margins. So somehow this one became thinner, even though both of them don't have the extra pages in the back that I'm a big fan of. The font also is really, really cool. And maybe it's just like back in the day when certain translations had their certain fonts that were kind of attached to them, just like we kind of have now. Maybe that's part of it all, but it's really, really easy to read, and I like that a lot. Now, there's a couple of cons, the things that maybe kind of make me detract from thinking this is going to be my Bible for next year. As much as I like the font, and I can't find out what size it is, that's not information's not in the page. I wonder if it's big enough. I think it's going to be okay, but it looks a little tiny. The second thing is it has a 1/4 inch less margin than the modern Cambridge hardback wide margins. They have 1.5 inches. This one has 1.25 inches, and that 1/4 inch, that's a big amount of distance. I've found myself as I've been using other Bibles that have like super wide margins. That's my last video to share with you. I've gotten spoiled rotten on like 4 inches of margin space, and so 1.25 inches, it's a little bit tight. I wonder how this is going to hold up. The paper passed a highlighter test, so it didn't bleed through, but the paper also feels a little bit thinner, a little bit kind of more like normal Bible paper. So I'm somewhat worried about that. And the last one is it doesn't have those back pages I like, but the only Bible that has those back pages is the more modern versions of the wide margin hardback. And between Rome Research, which I'm using more and more now for Bible notes, and also the idea that I can add some extra pages into the back, that's not as big of a deal breaker to me as it used to be. But this very well might be the Bible. I don't know. It hits a bunch of the notes already, and I don't have anything to be that disappointed about. So this might be it. So I'm Chad. I'm signing off. A couple things. One, let me know in the comments what you think about this Bible. How interesting does this sound? Second, I've got a mailing list. I sent out a Monday morning email with just a bunch of fun links about pop culture, social theory, theology, religion, practice, and also some just various music and podcast type things on there. If you're not getting that from me, I would love to send it to you. And the link to sign up for that is down below in the description box. So I'll be back. Got 2 more cool videos coming for sure over the next week. The first one is the best way I know to read through the Bible in 2023. And then also I've got my last Contender Bible, which I can't wait to share with you. And then I'll have a video about what Bible I chose for 2023. So I'll see you here on YouTube. I'm Chad, and until later, see you then.